Hey, this is the Antisocial Socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you are new to the channel or you have not yet subscribed, what the hell are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, smack that notification bell, so every time I get to running this MOUF in this BITCH, baby, yes sir, you are in the mix. You see the title, you know what time it is. Real pro-blacks, let the community burn. Oh my gosh, I know people are going to be like, what? How the hell did you come to that conclusion? If you are so pro-black, you are supposed to be loving my people. But my philosophy is this, and I know it's going to sound super harsh. You cannot love everybody, and you cannot help those who don't want to be helped. You cannot save who doesn't want to be saved. And the reality of the situation is, in the black community, we have become so accustomed to dysfunction, we do not want to be helped, and we don't want to change. I've been listening to a lot of discussions online about pro-blackism. You know, I've seen a lot of people who come out with these arguments about how much we should love black people, how much we should care about black people. But what my gripe with that argument is, how can you care for somebody more than they care for their damn self? And you might say again, like I've said in other videos, you sound like you're an elitist. This is another shaming tactic. You think you're better than people. You think that you are too good. You know, you don't really care about black people because there are people suffering. Now, I've always lived somewhere that's kind of suburban, at least in the way it feels. You know, I was living in suburban London at one time. And what I found so far when I go around London, when you're very close to the high street with all the shops and everything, it's quite run down. It's quite slummy. It's quite congested. You have a lot of blocks close by, flats and properties above shops and things like this. So it's always quite busy. And it's in a sham because there's so many people concentrated around that high street, not just residents, but also people who actually come to shop. It's always in a bit of a state. As you start to move away from the high street, literally just start cutting through some back streets, you almost have like a complete culture shift. You have a lot more terraces, detached and semi-detached houses. It's just basically got a totally different feel to it. And as a result of living kind of like in this situation where I've seen the nice roads and I've seen the harsh roads, I haven't come to the conclusion that, you know, no one can be helped or no one should be helped. But what I do know, especially here in the UK, where people try to jump on the whole, I grew up in the hood, I grew up in the slum, I grew up in the ghetto mentality, is like, no, that is a lifestyle you are choosing to live. You know, when I was living with my biological mother, you know, we were poor. We're talking about, we go shopping on a Saturday, food has run out by Thursday. Whatever you can find, that's what you can eat. Now, granted, my mother wasn't necessarily savvy financially. She could have made better choices with the money in order to stretch it a bit further, but at the time that's what she could manage, and we were struggling. And I found ways, saving the little lunch money that I had, taking a packed lunch. You know, if people had free meals that they didn't use, I'll be honest, I'll hold my hand up. I was like, if you don't need your free meal ticket, can I have it? Because I need my lunch and you don't need it. You clearly have money. For some reason, you are entitled to free meals, but yet you come to school with how much pound a day? So you don't need the ticket, give it to me. I didn't obviously bully them for the ticket, but I was like, if you're really not going to use it, can I have it? Because then I can get at least a hot meal at lunch, which then meant I could save my money to buy the things I needed for my education. We're talking about stationery, feminine products, you know, clothes. You know, if I needed things for school, like maybe a replacement part of my uniform, or I don't know, just anything. At least I had a bit of money that I was saving up. I found other ways to make money. You know, I remember during the holidays, my mother was like, do not go out car washing. And I mean, as she's gone through the door, that's me with the bucket, man. I don't care. He said, don't go, but I need cash. And I'll never forget this one day. I made £13. And when you're like, I don't know, when you're like 12, 13, 14, £13 was a hell of a lot of money that could go quite far back then. And I went and I just blew the whole of it pretty much on stationery because I needed it for school. Why am I saying all this? UK is one of the richest countries in the world. States is the same. You have free education. You have opportunities to get into programs. If you get into the slum life and the hood life, it's partly because you want to. It's partly because you feel that it's something to be proud of, or it's something to be glorified, because there really isn't an excuse. And what really winds me up, okay, you started out in the slum and maybe you didn't have the best start. But when I hear people who claim to be pro-black always making excuses for why they live in poverty, I think to myself, you are just an enabler of more poverty. For a long time now, I have been what's the opposite of an advocate? A staunch opposer of the whole white man problem. And I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. We all know if a black person and a white person go for a job, equal credentials, if the employer is white, he's going to pick the white person more time than not. Unless they're trying to do some equal opportunities, we've got to do some type of affirmative action type, we've got to do diversity, BS, then obviously he's going to pick the black one because he needs to make the numbers up. It's not because he wants the black person. Okay, that's been known a long time, that these people don't do things because they actually want to give people opportunities. They do things because they have to. Okay, in America you have stop and frisk. Here in the UK we have stop and search. It's the same thing. Disproportionate stopping of people from a black background because they look a certain way. And sometimes you can't even blame them because these people actually are carrying stuff. The stereotype is there for a reason. We have problems with police brutality, people dying in custody or not long after being released from custody. It's crazy out here. I've seen 2 people fighting, and we're talking about 20 cops. For what? The 2 people have already been arrested, and the other 18, if there's more than 20, like 20 are just standing around chatting. And no wonder there's so much frigging crime. You lot are all here arresting 2 black men for what? So, look, I understand that there are problems when you have a lot of people, especially a lot of people in an impoverished situation living close to each other. Of course, they are going to have certain issues. They're going to engage in certain behaviors. But that's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. Okay? And you might say, well, who the hell do you think you are? Well, I know who I think I am. I don't give a shit what you think I am. That's why no one don't like me. And that's why I got a YouTube channel where I can just run my big mouth and say what I like. And whoever doesn't like it, that's your business. But it's got to stop. As I did a video the other day about, the comeback culture, this is all related to this culture of we need to always be picking people up. We always need to be forgiving and turning a blind eye. Yeah, of course, we need to turn a blind eye because people do make mistakes. We're human. No one is perfect. But there's a difference between turning a blind eye or giving somebody a chance and basically becoming an enabler in their bad behavior. This is what we have in the black community when we glorify hood culture, when we glorify selling drugs, when we glorify promiscuity, when we glorify crime, when we glorify everything that basically every other race on the planet finds detestable. You can't be surprised that as a race we are looked down upon and we cannot compete. And a lot of people don't seem to see that the pro-blacks really are just constantly looking for a handout. And And this is why a lot of the brothers, this whole thing started with the passport guys who said, you know, we're done with the black community, we're just going to travel around the world and we're going to find women of other races. I don't blame them, because if you have to go somewhere else to find happiness, I can't really argue with the reasons why you do that. Everybody's got one life to live on this side of death, so they need to be able to find what they need to find. Okay, now we have SYSBM, and these guys are not adverse or against marriage. They just feel like if you're in America, they cannot find a decent quality woman in the States. So it's either a black woman from another part of the world or just a non-black woman. Again, I can't blame brothers, because black men do want to be married, they do want to have families, they do want legacy, but they don't want to have to put their seed into bad soil. And the laws, the way they currently stand, and the condition of westernized black women, you can't really wrong a decent thinking black man for wanting to go and be with a decent quality woman, irrespective of the colour. You just can't. And this is something pro-blacks just can't seem to understand. That's why when you see them going around and they get a lot of backlash, you can't be surprised. Okay, so why do I say we got to let the community burn? The key word here is separation. Okay, the people who are productive have no option but to separate from the people who are non-productive. I had a friend, quote unquote, I mean, she was my friend. She helped me a lot. But with the help also came disrespect, also came a lot of headache at times. You know, it was kind of like a relationship where there was love, but there was also a little bit of control and abuse. I didn't speak to her for like 10 years, man. And then she just turns up on my doorstep. You know, she felt the loss more than I did because I was tired of the abuse. And for guys who decide to go SYSBM and to just leave the community and establish their own thing somewhere else, what they are telling you is, I am tired of this abuse. I'm tired of being overlooked. I'm tired of being taken for granted. I'm tired of the burden of people who don't want to be productive being put on me, and then to be called a sellout and a coon and a traitor for not wanting to turn back and basically give people handouts. Giving people handouts has never helped a situation. In countries where they have no benefits, everybody has a trade. I mean, this guy can see I'm doing a video and he decides to get the leaf blower. Are you kidding me? How dare you? I'm joking. You know, in countries where people don't have handouts and they don't have welfare, trust me, everybody can cut grass, they can fix units, they know how to do DIY, they can fit their own kitchen. They understand that if I cannot, you know, find a way to generate an income, we will starve. And unfortunately in the West, because we have such a welfare culture, such a welfare mentality, it's made us so lazy that even to do our jobs, we don't really want to do it, but we still want the pay. And pro-blacks are the biggest pushers of this welfare mentality. You know, oh, the white man, the white man, the white man. When you ask a pro-black person, what is your strategy to get us out of this state? They never seem to have any clear, concise plan as to what they are going to do. You can't go in a direction if you don't know where you at least want to go. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that in the pro-black camp. That's why they're getting a lot of the backlash that they're getting right now. People are tired of hearing about, you know, your black power and your melanin and your dashikis and your big chain and your Africa medals and medallions and all this bullshit. All that shit don't mean nothing. When you go into the office or you go in for that job interview, no one cares if you can trace your lineage back to Egypt. Not one person gives a damn. Okay? No one. I don't give a shit if you're a prince or a king in your village. You are not in your village, okay? You're here in the West. Every other race on the planet understands how to compete. It's only black people who want to rock up and do their own thing and then still expect to be accepted. No, it doesn't work like that. And because we're not raised from childhood to understand certain standards, a lot of us, not some of us, I can't say the numbers, but you know, the overall state of the community is an indicator of what's going on in the homes. The fact that we are not being raised to compete means that when we get out into the real world, we're always at a disadvantage. Certain standards, certain principles, certain expectations, which are just common amongst every other race. For some reason, black people have to be backwards. And then as soon as they don't get what they want, they're quick to pull out the, oh, is it because I'm black card? You know, Ali G always used to do that skit, is it because I was black? And everybody like kind of laughs. But really the dude is just laughing at us. The whole world is freaking laughing at us because we come up with these stupid things like, is it because I'm black? Yeah, it's because you're black, and because as a black person you embrace certain ideologies that put you all the time in a position where you need to be supported. You cannot have a functioning, healthy society where the masses are looking to the few that made it out, because in a lot of instances, the few that actually did make it out were not helped by the community to begin with. The very community that shunned them, that didn't support them, that labelled them all kind of different things, is now the same one with his hand sticking out for support. It doesn't make any sense. This is why a lot of people are saying, let the community burn, because if people are not going to hear when you tell them you need to change, the only way they're going to understand that they need to change is when they start to feel the consequences of their actions. In other countries, this is how they operate. You have people who don't even bother too tough with prisons. It's like, oh, you commit this type of crime? Yeah, we're going to the woods and you're going to get a bullet. It's that simple. We don't have the time, the money or the resources to keep funding you and keeping you alive in prison when there are people who need those resources. This is why here in the UK the NHS is damn buckling. We've got people who are killing themselves with drink and drugs, and you have people who have genuine conditions who can't get help. Because of austerity, they want to close down all of our centres, they want to close down a lot of our departments and units. People have to travel for miles to get medical treatment, and then you've got people who just get up, they live in a hostel, and after they finish using their benefit money for drink and drugs, and you can say, oh, you shouldn't say nothing about them, it could be you. Yeah, it could be me, but it's not. It could be me, but it's not. After we pay taxes to help these people, you have a hostel not to continue to take drugs. You have a hostel so that you can get clean, so that you can go back into society and be productive and contribute. After we pay our taxes to support people who don't want to be rehabilitated, they're on the street begging. So you want money again. It's not right. And pro-blacks who operate with this welfare state, you know, because we're all brown colour, you should all just help each other. You know, these people are not helping you. They're putting you in a state of mind of victimhood, which is going to make you lazy, it's going to make you stagnant, and ultimately it's going to stop you from being able to compete. A black woman's first slight at a black man is always, why can't you build something? Why don't you compete like other races? Well, why don't you raise men who can compete? It's stop always talking this shit about, oh, because we're black. It's time that black people who know they can do better separate. It doesn't matter if it's your mother, your father, your friend. If that person is weighing you down more than building you up, you have to cut that dead weight, because you cannot take people with you who don't want to go. Okay? Let the community burn. The people who want to change, they will change. And for the rest, unfortunately, that's how it's going to have to be. They have to go and separate in order to build something constructive for them and their own people. That's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you think in the comments section below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.